morning admin meeting. Before we dive in, do we have any public comment on items not on the agenda? All right, well, we'll jump right to our action items, and our first presenter is Deb Bell.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So this is our first task order with Newfields. Newfields is a hydrology and engineering firm that when we put out a call for proposals, they were our top selection. And this has to do with the Lolo RSID 901 and our water rights. And this is kind of that final step where we're looking to change our existing place of use for those 3 wells that provide water to that system. And so Newfields, their first task as part of their contract is to assist us with our pre-application to the DNRC for that change of place of use. And so they are the area experts on hydrology and stream flow and all the interactions that go with that. So this is just we're requesting signature for their first task order. It was in our budget, and so that is our action item for this morning.
Great.
Okay. I don't have anything to comment. Yeah, I move to approve task order 1 with Newfields.
I will second that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thanks, Deb.
Yeah, been great. Okay, next up is Nicole Rush.
Hi, good morning, commissioners. We have new Bstf applications due next week. So I have one company that is looking to apply. You already know them. They are Botany Soap, and we actually just closed out a grant for them that was contracted over the course of the last year. They successfully hired 6 jobs and are planning to hire in 2021. So they've asked me to work on a new application for them. And so we have here this morning Tim Uticello and Jason Keeley from Botany, just to kind of give you an update on their hiring plans and how things are going for the company. And then my action item is to approve a resolution for their application. So I'll hand it over to you, Tim and Jason, for a brief update on Botany.
Thanks.
Great.
Go for it, Jason.
Great. Thank you, guys. Thank you for the opportunity. Good morning, commissioners. Fun to see some friendly faces. Tim presented to you guys last year, and we thought I would make the presentation this year. We've had a very successful year. You may see, and part of our application course is a little bit of a business plan summary, and in that we highlight some of the things that this grant's enabled us to do this last year. We did both Big Sky and Workforce Training Grant. The Big Sky Trust Fund allowed us to hire and fund 6 positions for this year, which was great. It's a year of growth for us. And ultimately, we grew our staff over that last year from 12 to 20. But 6 of those were certainly qualifying jobs. So we're grateful for the support. And then, of course, we did the training grant that helped onboard those folks and really get them prepared. Importantly, we added really important positions this year with the grant. We had a VP of Technology, who's been an outstanding addition. We added a Director of Operations. We added a Production Manager. So some pretty nice jobs that we're kind of at that point in the company where we're able to help people grow their careers and not just have a job. So that's the grant's been really helpful with that. We moved from Palmer Street out to Bonner in April. So we almost tripled our square footage. And the grant helped us do things like buy a forklift, instead of just using hand trucks all over the place. So that's been great, and just upgrade a lot of our equipment so that we can meet, frankly, increased pandemic demand for our bar and liquid soaps. So sales are up significantly. The staff has really grown both in number and in quality and morale. Moving here has been really great for everybody. So we're hoping to build on that this next year and hire an account manager. Again, just to meet the demand, where there's more people more customers to manage, more accounts to manage. A fulfillment manager, again, as we grow, we kind of have that middle management come into play here.
I'm sorry, what
get
was
product out the door.
second one, Jason? Oh,
It's called a fulfillment manager, we're calling it. So
fulfillment. Thank you.
yeah, we kind of have two sides of the house. We make soap on one side of the building, and on the other side, we package it and ship it. So we call that fulfillment. And then we're going to hire a sales manager later in the grant. Is the idea, and that's Tim does 95% of the sales for the company at this point, and that's a lot. So we're trying to get somebody in to help manage that, and so he doesn't have to spend all his time doing that. And then we'll hire a couple of associates, which we call, kind of our frontline workers. So all told, we're putting in for 5 jobs, and companion training grants as well. And our list of equipment purchases is way exceeds what we could, achieve with this grant. But there's plenty of things we'd like to do to spend money on to grow the business further. Yeah. Any questions or additions, Tim?
I take it people are still buying soap in the midst of the pandemic.
Yeah, seems like a growth.
They're buying soap. They're buying so much soap that we are just now working on hand sanitizer. I mean, we've just been so busy with our core business that we are just now getting to that companion line that's going to go really well with our customers because they're already thinking cleanliness.
Nice. Well, that's great. It's great news to hear, and congratulations to you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, proud of what you guys have been able to do.
Sure.
Yeah,
And I love the product.
Here's a product idea. Given the shortages of toilet paper in some parts of the country, have you ever thought of impregnating the bars of soap with toilet paper, and it would just be the perfect package deal? I don't know. I think about it. Our decision today will not be predicated on picking up on that idea, but
I am speechless.
Yeah.
oh, this is great. We're so happy for your success and glad to hear that the Bonner site is working out for you.
It is. This has been a really great partnership with BDP. So they're a great organization and super helpful as landlords. And I don't know, what your direct involvement was with them, but it certainly has been a great fit. We love this community here and are grateful for the new space. Yeah, for sure. And so as soon as we're all allowed to come out, we'd love to show you.
Ah, yeah, that'd be wonderful to see.
Be great.
Yeah, we saw it just when it was a conception. It was the old riding arena. Yeah, it was exciting. So it'll be neat to see.
Huh.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Okay, I would move that we approve the resolution authorizing the Bstf application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thanks, Nicole. Thanks, guys.
Yes,
Thank
you
you
all
all.
of you. We are really appreciative. Thank you. This is great.
Likewise. And thank you, Nicole, for shepherding us along the way. It's been really helpful, the work you've done.
No problem. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a nice meeting.
Yeah, thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Next up is our own Jason Emery.
All right. Good morning.
Good morning.
This contract that I'm asking for approval for me to sign, just based upon ease of digital signatures, we're due for renewing our Sophos endpoint security products, and there's a number of them: our email security, our advanced threat protection, and all kinds of fun stuff to hopefully keep the bad guys at bay. And by the way, it's been very successful for us. Is due for renewal. Partly due to the growth, but just in the fact that we've added more tools to the thing. The costs have gone up substantially over the last few years, and so I've been working with our reseller to find a way to make this a little more affordable. And generally, one way to do that is, of course, is to buy multiple years up front. And generally speaking, if you were to buy, say, 3 years, you get kind of 3 years at the price of 2. The thing is, you still have to cough up a pretty good chunk of money, up front. And so what we've worked on, and it's been challenging just due to some contract language, but thanks to Brian West and Erica Grindy, it's a lot of work. we finally came to an agreement on something that was palatable to both sides. We're going to basically be leasing the software. So essentially, we'll be committing to 3 years of the product, which we plan on using anyway. And essentially what this company does is they front the money and we pay them a monthly lease fee for the product. There is a small, of course, overhead for doing that. Obviously, they make a little bit of profit on it like you would for any loan. So we essentially what we do is we end up getting about 10 months free product out of this instead of 12. So we're giving up a little bit, but we don't have to come up with $180,000 all at once. Yeah, so it allows it to fit within our operational budget that I have budgeted for already without any increases. You know, over the long term, we save quite a bit of money to the tune of about $80,000 over the course of 3 years. And we get to continue to, you know, properly protect our systems like we want. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Can't crack that nut. So, yes, I move to authorize that you sign the lease agreement.
That sounds good. I'll second that.
Is anyone else using this? Do you
This
know
product?
Yeah, other counties or?
Yep, Cascade County uses it. PHC uses it. So I put Jody Faircloth onto this about 1.5 years ago as well. I think City of Great Falls. So there's a number of organizations around our state. Sophos is kind of one of those top tier providers in this space. You know, they're kind of a market leader and they prove it over and over. It's very good product.
All right, well, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Thanks,
Great,
Jason.
thank you. All right.
Thanks.
All right, we're just getting a whole lot of Bsf. Whatever that is.
You know, I tend to load it all up on one agenda. So
Well, we're happy to. It's all good news.
yeah, and actually, I have a couple letters of extension on your correspondence items, but I also wanted to take the opportunity to introduce you to Sylvia Roma, although I think you may have met Sylvia before. She's been MEP's office manager. And I've been training her over the last year to help out with grant admin, and she's going to be coming to these meetings more and asking for your approval on things like draw requests and these type of extension letters. So I just want to let you put a face to a name and let you know that you'd be seeing more of her here. So
welcome, Sylvia.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hello, commissioners. Nice to formally meet you. And Dave, obviously, I corresponded with you a bunch for the board.
Yep. Good to have you.
Thanks.
And so let's see, we have 2 letters. I think the first one is, what is it? First one is for Consumer Direct. So these are extension requests. So Consumer Direct has had a Bstf grant for the last year, and we're requesting extension into a second year for them. It's not a request for additional funding. It's just a request for additional time. They have not been able to hire the people they expected to, I think largely due to the pandemic. They've pretty much held their staff at the level they were at when the grant started, but the grant is to create 19 jobs, and I'd like to give them additional time to see if they can do that. And they think they're hopeful that as with recovery, they can get there in the next year.
Yeah.
Is there any limit on the period of extension or extensions you can give?
Generally, Commerce will let you go up to 2 years, and they don't like to see extensions after that unless the county is requesting it, like in the case of like an underwater grant or to give the company time to pay back funding or something of that sort.
And they feel okay that January 14th, 2022 gives them enough. I mean, is that enough time? I guess that's my question. I feel like we're in 2021 right now. I don't feel like we're going to be rolling, until the summer. So I just want to make sure that we're doing the right thing or giving them the.
That's a great question, Juan. Is this enough time?
So the standard request is 1 year, and that's what I know Commerce will approve. I don't know if it's enough time for Consumer Direct to hire all 19. jobs. I'd like to, I think, you know, we'll check in with them every quarter. They think tentatively it is, but you know, it's with the pandemic, it's hard to say for certain about anything. But at least it gives them an additional year to try.
Okay.
All right. Well, we'll look forward to seeing the letter.
Okay.
Do we sign it today, or how's?
I would love it if you could sign it today because it's due to Commerce tomorrow.
Okay, we will.
We can do that.
Yes.
Thank you. And then I have another letter too. You guys, do you formally approve these, or I forget?
We'll sign them.
Okay, thank you. And then my other extension request is both a time extension and a request for additional funding. It's for Bedrock Sandals. So they've hired 4 of the 5 positions they were awarded in their first year, which means they've substantially completed their hiring plan. And so now we can request additional funding for 3 more jobs, and they do expect to hire those in the next year.
So those are like office type jobs, or are they making sandal jobs?
They're actually both. So they've been assembling some sandals, and they're really committed to repairing sandals that get broken. So they have a program where if your sandals break, you send them in and they'll repair them, and they're doing those out of their shop here. So they've hired some kind of like sewing assembly sort of folks, and then they've also hired some marketing and administrative and sales staff as well.
Okay.
And Nicole, the minute that they create that 5th job, we're then going to be able to just close out that first contract. Is that how that would work?
No, actually, they'll just increase the award amount by 3 more jobs. So then they'll be able to create up to 8. And they are hiring for that 5th position now. So it just extends the grant, increases the funding, and it's like one contract that just keeps going.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You. So next up is a discussion item on Brian West should lead us through this solar conversation, or Diana.
I believe Diana is going to be the one to give you a run through of the communication.
Fantastic.
I'll kick us off here and then look forward to Brian and others jumping in. I thought I would just provide a little bit of background first. I know, some of you are well aware of this, but just so everybody's on the same page with this project. The county detention facility, as you know, uses by far the most energy of any county facility. In fact, I just ran the numbers and it's about 1/3 of the county government's total energy consumption at that one facility. And it also has a big, beautiful flat roof with no shading on it, which makes it a great candidate for a large solar array. So given the county's goals of carbon neutrality and county government operations, as well as the goal of 100% clean electricity for the community as a whole, the county started looking into a potential large solar array on the roof of the detention facility a number of months ago. We worked with a firm called On-Site Energy, who did a solar design and feasibility assessment for the array, sort of to maximize the available roof space. That design comes in at 472 kilowatts DC, which is 372 kilowatts AC, which would make it, if installed, the largest rooftop solar array in the state by a good margin, to my knowledge. So that's pretty exciting. It would be important to note, it would be what's called a non-export system, meaning that all the energy used, generated by the array, would be used on site at the detention facility. It would never be exported to the grid. So that distinguishes it from a net metered system where energy, when you produce more than you consume in your house, for example, you can send that back onto the grid. This system would never send energy back onto the grid. So the 50 kilowatt size limit that applies to net metered systems would not apply to a non-export system like this, and that's why the larger size is possible. Northwestern Energy has established separate interconnection requirements that are specific to this type of system, so it would go through that permitting process with Northwestern. Overall, it would supply about 20% of the energy used at the detention facility on an annual average. So I guess to get more to the topic today, in terms of financing, the county was approached by a private investor who expressed interest in partnering on the project. The advantage of using this approach is that the private investor is eligible for the federal investment tax credit, which is currently this year is worth 26% of the total project cost. As a public entity, of course, the county couldn't take advantage of that tax credit on its own, but we can indirectly by working with a private investor who makes the investment in the equipment. This is a relatively novel type of arrangement for Montana, but is pretty common in other states as a way to make renewable energy investments more cost effective for local governments and by extension for taxpayers. So the private investor has provided the county with a draft of a letter of intent that I believe you have before you as part of the packet for the meeting here. If the county wishes to go this route to finance the project, it would make sense to get an agreement like this in place by the end of this month, because that federal tax credit declines in 2021 from 26% to 22%. So that would just make the finances less attractive to the county as well as to the investor. So I guess maybe to jump a little bit into the letter and then turn it over to Brian here. But just from my perspective, one aspect of the letter I did want to call your attention to, because it jumped out at me, is the 2% escalation rate that's noted in the second whereas statement. If the commissioners are interested sort of in moving forward with this approach, my suggestion is that we consider pushing back on that escalation rate before approving the letter. It's basically assuming that the rate we pay for electricity is increasing at a rate of 2% a year, which if you look over the long term, that's more or less accurate. But if we're talking about essentially a 5-year agreement, it's pretty unlikely, given that Northwestern just filed a general rate case last year, that we're going to see additional rate increases in the next 5 years. And so I think it would be reasonable to suggest not including an escalation rate in this agreement. And I'm going to stop there and maybe kick it to Brian to talk about it from his perspective. Yeah, I'm happy to take questions.
So rather than say it's just going to go up 2% a year, can we just tie this to the general wholesale value of electricity?
Yeah, no, good question. It isn't exactly tied to the wholesale value. So in the letter, I just want to make sure that I'm going to quote the right number here by looking at it. It says 8.5 cents per kilowatt hour. That is actually based on the
0.085, right?
Yeah, $0.085. So that's the 8.5 cents.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
No, sorry. I automatically translate to cents.
Yeah.
So that would, that's based on based on On-Site Energy's assessment, the value that this project would provide, basically the savings this project would provide to the county, which is a combination of what the county currently pays per kilowatt hour for electricity, and also an estimate of how much the county would save on its capacity charge through this project. So, for the jail, the county pays a rate per kilowatt hour and also an extra capacity charge based on the maximum 15-minute usage per month. So kind of a peak charge, a capacity charge. And we would save on that based on the solar, but that's real dependent on what are the 15 hours in the month that actually turn out to be the highest usage and how much is the solar producing in those specific 15 minutes. So there's some uncertainty there. But On-Site Energy has calculated it and basically rolled it into that one number with the so basically the proposal from the investor is that the county would pay the amount of those savings to the investor for those 5 years or the amount of time until the county purchased the project. Does that make sense?
So could we instead tie our increase to what we would be paying if we didn't do this?
That's what I guess that's what it's intended to be reflective of, is what we would be paying if we didn't, what we would be paying to Northwestern if,
Yep.
for that portion of the energy. It's not the full energy produced, but.
I just thought that the 2% was kind of a ham-fisted way of getting at that. And could we just do it more exactly? Like each year do some type of evaluation. And if this is what we would have paid otherwise, that's what we pay now.
I think there would be a way, and this would maybe be a legal question also, but to include in the contract some sort of adjustment of that rate if rates do increase.
And if they don't increase, then we don't.
And if they don't, then it would stay the same. That would be, that's certainly, I think from my perspective, something that we could suggest. It would just mean that rate might vary over the course of the.
So, and I guess I said it poorly when we track this to the wholesale value of electricity. Can we track our potential increase to what we would have been paying otherwise, using all the proper measurements that if I try and say it, I'll get the vocabulary wrong. But what would we have been paying if we just went on with business as usual? And that's what we pay as a proportion, because this is only meeting 20% of our needs, right? So it just seems like a more exact and potentially more fair way to do it than the kind of ham-fisted, we'll just slap 2% on it.
Yeah, I think, I'm curious to hear what Brian thinks, but it seems like we could propose something like that from my perspective, at least.
Yeah, suffice it to say, I think this is a point of negotiation, and that what's being proposed is not some of the assumptions that might be built into that are not entirely accurate.
First question from me. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
My headset had a great time to do a software installation and reboot. So, I've asked if there's going to be like a 2020 like bloopers reel for team meetings.
Yeah, for sure.
I lost a little bit of what Diana was answering, but one thing I just want to underscore is this is a preliminary letter of intent. It is basically an opening communication to you that Ciroc is interested in this possible proposal. A large swath of what I heard from you, Josh, I think you're asking is this the final deal? No, I believe that we can negotiate and discuss some of the preliminaries. And again, this letter of intent really is a preliminary step because it contemplates the idea that there'd be a much more fleshed out agreement between the parties that would likely take longer than this calendar month to execute. So to your question about could we do this, could we do that, I do believe that we can discuss with Ciroc and their representatives about what they're willing to do. That said, if the commissioners are interested in pursuing this letter of intent this month or any other time, I think it would be ideal to have as much as make sure the letter of intent echoes what is likely to be in the final agreement as much as possible, where possible.
So Brian, do you feel like we can't, you feel like time-wise it's just too tight to get this done by the end of the year?
I won't say that yet. I think if the commissioners are interested in further exploring this arrangement, we could reach out to their representatives and see if we can make some of the adjustments Diana is suggesting. I know we have a few more meetings that we could certainly take this letter back up at for an actual item and discussion about whether or not you want to execute and agree to it. I believe the 22nd.
Go ahead.
I just want to say, I believe that the last meeting that we have on the calendars before the holiday break would be the 22nd, if I'm correct.
Okay.
So would this letter need some version of this need to be executed this month in order for the investor to avail himself of the tax credit?
That is my understanding, yes. And just to add to what Brian was saying in terms of what would take longer is the letter itself refers to a definitive agreement that would be a more in-depth document that would not need to be signed this month in order for the investor to take advantage of the tax credit, is my understanding. So as long as this is in place and, like Brian said, reflective, if possible, of that definitive agreement this year, then that's sort of the deadline that we're working under in December.
Okay, so if I just want to make sure I understand, this letter, even as is right now today, would allow Ciroc Energy to take advantage of the tax credit, and we can still fine tune it so it's not as ham-fisted as Josh is concerned about after the first of the year or whenever? Or you?
That's our understanding, but that's I don't know. That's Cirroc's issue to discuss with their own counsel.
But there's time, even if we project it out to the 22nd as wanting to bring an action item before us, there's time to go back and negotiate some of these clauses, which I don't think we would want to just accept as is today on their first offer.
Oh, Jason.
Just a quick comment. I think the key here is just, trying to gauge your desire. Is this the financing path you think is preferential? I think that's what we're trying to get to ultimately here is get that sense, or if you would prefer us, to pursue a more traditional financing path. And then once we've decided that course of action, then we can make some of the details more relevant and get moving on that.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like if financing was our only question, we wouldn't do this. We could do a traditional type of financing and just get it done. But the fact is, this has not yet been done in the state, as far as I know. And if we could pull this off without putting ourselves at risk, costing a bunch of money, or otherwise endangering ourselves in any way, we would be opening the door for other public entities across the state to make use of this as a financing structure. And given the change in presidential administration, I think it's a reasonable expectation to think there may be more and new types of tax incentives, and we could be doing a greater service to the state. I don't personally want us to see us do that service to the state at a cost to ourselves. If we can make this happen without spending extra money or mad amounts of extra time, I'd love to see us do it. But if it puts us at great risk or great cost, we should just do traditional financing. But I'd like to explore this a little bit more before we close the door.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that I don't see this as putting us in any position of great risk, and I think there's some additional. There could perhaps be some actual cost savings associated with this. Plus, I think the greater point would be that it's not just a matter of costs and benefits in terms of financial aspects of this, but it is precedent setting and could be breaking the ice for other communities across Montana.
So what can be accomplished in the next 12 days? Or, I'm sorry, what was the date that we're working with? The 21st? Second, sorry.
So I think what can be done is that somebody from the county will reach out to Cirroc's representatives and talk about some of the points that were discussed today and see what might be negotiated within this letter of intent and with an eye towards what the actual formal agreement would look like. And if that's my takeaway from it, the commissioners want the county to investigate this as a possible option.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And how does that make you and Diana feel?
We're more than happy to reach out and talk with Cirroc's representatives and raise some of the concerns discussed here today. And if we can get some, if there's some changes to the proposal, we can bring it back to you at another meeting with keeping in mind that the clock is ticking with the amount of meetings left in the year.
Yeah.
Yep. Sounds good.
Ryan, in that letter of intent, did they, if I read it accurately, they said they were wanting to split indemnification with us?
Yeah, that's one of the discussions, is that who would be in charge of kind of shepherding this through for legal purposes. And the current proposal would be a 50-50 split.
Yeah. I wonder if maybe you or Diana, if it's possible to kind of do a bit of a risk assessment. What do you think? Obviously not to answer right now, but over the next week or so, if it's possible to look at, are we looking at nothing that we're splitting 50-50, or are we looking at splitting something that's a really big deal? and if it looks like a really big deal, we could push back on Cirroc and ask them to cover a much larger, if not the entirety of it. But if it doesn't look like it's a big deal, then it isn't a big deal.
Sure, Josh, we'll look at the preliminary proposal and get back to you on any areas of concern.
Thanks.
Yeah, we could all, I mean, nothing nothing to be lost by counter offering. They take 100% of the indemnification, so we could always end up finding ourselves splitting the difference of whatever is the residual. So, thanks for working on it.
Yeah, thanks a
Yeah.
lot.
Thanks.
Look
Thank
to
you.
hearing what you find out. All right. Do we have any communication needs, requests?
Nothing from me today, thank you.
Thanks, Allison. Anything new out there in the COVID world? All right, then I think we can be done.
Wow. Okay. Thanks,
Thanks.
everyone.
All right.